Welcome to Full Plate Diet TV. This is episode 2, and I'm Dr. Diana Fleming, co-author of the Full Plate Diet, and I want to talk to you just a little bit about sugar and weight loss. Now, how many of you like to eat something sweet? Raise your hand. Michelle?
Oh, I do. I love sweets.
Okay. Michelle is my camera woman, by the way, and I like sweets too. Well, I want to tell you, this is the good news. You don't have to feel guilty about enjoying the taste of sweets. You know why? Because you have about 10,000 taste buds, primarily on your tongue, and every one of those can register the taste of sweet. So we were actually designed to enjoy sweets. However, and you knew I was going to say however, just like there's good fat and bad fat, and there's good carb and bad carb, so there is good sweets and not so good sweets. Now, last summer, August 2009, the American Heart Association, in their online journal version of Circulation, which is the journal for the Heart Association, they came out with the very first time for specific guidelines for adults in America for added sugar intake. Now that's pretty monumental, because before that, the Heart Association thought that added sugar had sort of a neutral effect when it came to heart disease and health. In fact, in their 2006 guidelines, they just said cut back on added sugar in beverages and foods. They really gave no recommendations. So all of a sudden, 2009, they came out with specific recommendations. Why? Because the evidence for the harmful effects of eating a lot of added sugar are increasing. A high intake of added sugar increases your risk of obesity, heart disease, diabetes, gout, and even high blood pressure. So, what were their guidelines? Here's the bottom line. I have put them on the flip chart. At the top, you see that for the adult woman, the American Heart Association recommends that an adult woman have no more than 25 grams of added sugar in a day. And an adult man, no more than 37.5 grams of added sugar in a day. Now I'm going to round up that 37.5 to 38. So we've got 25 and 38 grams of added sugar in a day. The reason why men have a higher margin is because they're bigger. Now, what do grams mean to any American? Really, we don't use the metric system. So we can make this understandable if you know that 4 grams equals 1 teaspoon of sugar. So 4 grams is about 1 teaspoon of sugar. So those grams of sugar translate into teaspoons. For an adult woman, they should not have more than 6 teaspoons of added sugar in a day, and an adult male, not more than 9 teaspoons of added sugar in a day. So here's what this looks like. This is the 6 teaspoons of added sugar for the women, and this is the 6 teaspoons of added sugar for the men. This is not very much. You can see that. And you can appreciate how little it is if you realize that the average American adult consumes 22 teaspoons of added sugar in a day. That's a little less than half a cup. That's a big difference here. 6 and 9 versus 22. Now, these American Heart Association guidelines said nothing about added sugar intake for children. But I just want to give you a heads up. Children have smaller bodies than adults, so they actually need less than the 6 to 9 teaspoons of added sugar in a day. Guess what? This is really scary. The average American 14 to 18-year-old teenager gets 34 grams of added sugar a day. 34 grams. That's way more than what is allowed for adults. That's serious. So, where do we find this added sugar? And before I tell you that, sorry, I had to look at my notes here. I just want to say one thing about added sugar. The classic example is white sugar. We're all familiar with white sugar. 1 teaspoon of white sugar is derived from about 3 feet of sugar cane. 1 teaspoon. So that means that this is a very, very concentrated sweetener. And you know what happens during the process of concentrating it, all the fiber is lost, all the protein, all the vitamins, all the minerals, all the antioxidants, all the phytochemicals. So what you have with white sugar is the classic empty calorie food. 1 teaspoon has 16 calories, but it's empty or devoid of everything else that we need. And you know, the same thing really applies to all different forms of added sugar. And there's about 24 different names for added sugar. And if you really want to know all those names, you can go to our website, fullplatediet.org. We have a list there. So let's take a moment and think about where we find added sugars. Well, obviously in regular sodas, in specialty coffees, but also all the desserts. You know, the sweet stuff. We all know there's lots of added sugar there. Cakes, pies, cookies, donuts, pastries. The problem with these are that we don't realize exactly how much added sugar is in them. So what I want to recommend you do is, if you're going to eat some added sugar from dessert type foods, please read the label. See how many grams of added sugar are in a serving. And this is really important. The amount of sugar on the label does not apply to the whole box or the whole package or the whole cake. It applies to just one serving, and sometimes those servings are totally unrealistic in terms of what people actually eat. I have 2 examples here. Cheesecake, 2 slices. These are very small slices. Actually, someone who's really getting a serving of cheesecake would probably eat both of these. But one of these slices of cheesecake has 20 grams of sugar, just one. So if you ate both of these, it would be 40 grams of sugar. And how about the good old chocolate brownie, this American favorite? One of these, this is 2 brownies. One brownie alone has 40 grams of sugar. So if you really want to get into brownies and you eat both of these, you're getting 80 grams of sugar. Most of that is added sugar. So be very careful and read those labels if you're getting sugar from dessert type foods. Where else can you find added sugar? In a lot of places where you don't think it's there. It's hidden because the food is not a desserty food. It's not a real sweet food. Here are some examples. How about a burger from Carl's Jr.? Who would ever think that this has sugar, right? Added sugar? 19 grams of added sugar. Almost as much as one slice of this cheesecake. Other places where sugar hides, of course, is in the fruit-flavored yogurts. There is some sugar in the milk, of course, but there's also added sugar. This particular brand adds high fructose corn syrup. So be careful there. Ketchup is a notorious place for added sugar. 1 tablespoon. And 1 tablespoon is this much, teeny tiny amount, has 4 grams of sugar in it. Most of this added. Barbecue sauce is another great place for added sugar, so be careful with that. This is notoriously sweet. There is, 5 grams. Thanks, Michelle. 5 grams in 2 tablespoons, just 2 measly tablespoons of barbecue sauce. I mean, how many people use 2 tablespoons? Tomato sauce is another notorious place for added sugars. Now look, tomatoes naturally have sugar, but they also add sugar to a lot of commercial tomato sauces. So this half cup has 12 grams of sugar. This is a half cup serving. I mean, look how small this is. How many people eat a half a cup of tomato sauce when they put it on pasta? So be really careful with the added sugar hidden in tomato sauce. Also, oatmeal, great food, but when they package it and flavor it, lots of added sugar. And of course, we know so many cereals, so many cold breakfast cereals are literally nothing but candy. And especially the ones marketed to children. Some of them are over 50% calories from sugar. Trick Swirls, another great example of, a junky breakfast cereal. This has 11 grams of sugar in 1 cup. What child is going to eat 1 cup? Think of all the added sugar.